So we're going to go back to talking about the vote that did not happen today, or isn't happening today, which is talking about the Respect for Marriage Act. I want to bring in Charles Moran. He is the president of the Log Cabin Republicans, the nation's largest GOP organization dedicated to representing LGBTQ plus conservatives and allies. Thank you so much. It's really great to have you here. So let us talk. Is there a concern, I guess, first off, that with this delay happening with the House vote, that we could see this bill be put off longer than you'd like to see it be put off to?
Well, obviously, we'd like to see this bill be voted on as quickly as possible, predominantly because it's being used as a political football, not only between the gay left and the gay right, but really putting a lot of fear into the hearts of gay and lesbian Americans who are in these committed same-sex relationships. And it's needless fear. I mean, we saw in the Dobbs concurrence that Justice Thomas wrote, him going into a sweeping review of a lot of cases that in his only concurrence, no other justice signed on to it, that he'd like to review. But if you look at the decision that was issued by the majority in that case, they made it very, very clear that the Dobbs decision was never meant to be applied to same-sex marriages, that this was not something that was going to be used to overturn an Obergefell. The Democrats tried to very quickly turn this into a national issue that was going to, scare a lot of gay and lesbian Americans who are in these relationships. Conservatives across the board, even ones who don't support this piece of legislation, have said that having undoing all of these marriages is just not something that's feasible. It's not something that's American, and it's not something they want to do. So the sooner we can get this vote done and get it across the finish line, I think that the Senate leadership between the Democrats and the Republicans did a good job coming up with some religious freedom compromise language. It needs to be moved upon swiftly in the House, and the will is there to do it right now.
Yeah, and Charles, as you know, the Senate passed this legislation last week. However, only 12 Republicans joined Democrats in the chamber to pass it. Why is it that the GOP is unable, in some instances, to read the room? Most Americans support this. They can't seem to come together on this, as well as other issues related to the LGBTQ plus community.
And it's not just a majority of Americans. The most recent good polling shows that 71% of Americans support same-sex marriage. 55% of Republicans support it. So we're seeing a solid majority of Republicans support it too. But you've got the issues of religious freedom, and that is something that is consistently coming up. There are elements in the conservative movement who still want to continue this fight, still want to continue this war on same-sex marriage. They were unhappy about the Obergefell decision. They think that, or that they feel like this is a states' rights issue. They don't want to see this done on a federal level. Of Republicans who voted against it, who are even the ones who are in support of gay marriage, didn't like the way that Nancy Pelosi and Democratic leadership rushed this bill to the floor with no hearings, no committee hearings in less than 24 hours. It's not the way legislation is supposed to be done. But what we're trying to do is bring together like-minded individuals across the conservative spectrum who are going to continue to work and advocate to all Republicans and let them know that this is an issue that has largely united Americans. It is no longer needs to divide Americans, and it doesn't need to divide the Republican Party anymore. And if you even look at our most recent standard bearer, Donald Trump, who was the first president ever when elected to support same-sex marriage, this is an issue that really, has been litigated in the past, does not need to continue to be litigated going forward. So that's what we're trying to do is to inform our Republican colleagues that this is something that we can do. And we saw those 12 Republicans come together, and you had moderates, you had conservatives, you had more libertarian leaning members come together of that crew of 12 who came to agree. And I think, there were other amendments that were going to be considered by even other Republicans, just depending on how the Religious Freedom Amendment language was going to be tweaked, that would have also voted for it too. So yes, we got 12 votes last week, but I think just depending on some of the language, we would have seen much more. And I'm hoping that when we see this come before the House again, we're going to get closer to 75 Republican yes votes, eclipsing the 47 we got over the summer.
You mentioned that that this issue has become more political than you believe that it has to be, that the Democrats are using an issue just essentially sort of fear monger, and you don't think that same-sex marriage would be outlawed. But, a lot of people said that about Roe v. Wade, too. And we know that the Supreme Court is now listening to arguments connected to a wedding website creator who doesn't want to make websites for same-sex couples. Aside from the politics, right, if this is being used as a political issue that doesn't need to be used, aside from the politics, how important is this to the LGBTQ community, to having a sense of acceptance that moving forward, you're not going to have the rug pulled out from under you if you choose to get married?
Well, I would definitely separate out the issues of same-sex marriage and our victory under Obergefell versus the 303 case that's being decided now. I mean, again, this was Justice Thomas in his one concurrence statement that he put out. None of the other justices put their name on that. And in the Dobbs decision, it specifically said these are wholly and complete separate issues that do not apply to marriage. These are fundamental. I mean, people say, "Oh, the Supreme Court case is a Supreme Court case." No, it's not. I mean, there are fundamental issues that are totally different that are being decided between Dobbs and Obergefell. I'm not weighing into the merits of the case of Obergefell, into Dobbs. That's not what our organization does. We don't weigh into reproductive issues, but it was very clear that the majority who wrote that decision on Dobbs had their eye towards the LGBT community to let them know that this decision under no circumstances was to be used to undermine Obergefell. I mean, the language was very, very clear, and we are in the middle of a tense election year. And, Democrats seized on that, and larger anti-Republican LGBT organizations started to run with that and raised colossal amounts of money and pushed their radical agenda. And, part of what we're seeing now is this radical gender theory, plank being pushed across the country, where it's popping up in so many different areas. But there is solace in that Dobbs decision for gays and lesbians, where the majority said this is not to be applied to Obergefell and to gay marriage. That is not something we are looking under any circumstances to overturn. It was one concurrence by one justice who went into a very long litany of cases that he wanted to review. That does not reflect anywhere near the breadth that you would need on the Supreme Court to start overturning things like Obergefell.
Really fascinating discussion. Charles Moran, thank you very, very much. We'll be watching Capitol Hill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.